didn't have the home life to support me in being a college freshman. No one in my family, I was the first person to attend college in my entire family. And no one knew what those challenges were like. And not only that, I was in a relationship that although he supported me, he didn't know either. He wasn't in college. And so there I was trying to navigate now a completely new platform without the resources that a lot of young people need. And so I'm being very transparent here. Sometimes when I say this, people don't believe me. I flunked out my first year. My GPA was less than a 2.0. I went on probation. I met one of the most wonderful people who, rest her soul, is no longer with us, Dr. Benita Lyons at the University of Memphis, who was over the academic probation office. And I flunked. I was put on probation. I lost my scholarship and I didn't know what I was going to do.
Hey everybody, I'm back with another episode of So What Success Stories. And today I have a special pleasure of talking to my soror, my friend, and like this super amazing woman who is super supportive of everybody who's special to her. And her name is Joanne Massey. Now, Joanne and I met, I think probably 98 is when we first met, I think in 1998. So over 20 years ago. It's hard to believe though, right? We don't look like it. We first met then, and I think we really kind of reconnected in 2011 or 12. When we both were honored with the Memphis Business Journal Top 40 Under 40 Award. And that's when, again, I feel like we kind of reconnected, and I saw some of the awesome and amazing things that she has done. And she's done so many more since then. So today, Joanne is a founder and the president of LeMoyne Massey Associates. She can tell us a little bit more about that. But she is also the immediate former director of for the city of Memphis, Minority Diversity and Compliance. I said it all wrong, didn't I? The former director for the city of Memphis, Business Diversity and Compliance. It's a mouthful. It's a mouthful. A big job, a big title, and you did a great job. And I'm honored for all the support that you gave me, your office gave me as a small business owner. And I'm super excited to see you and what you're doing, continuing in your entrepreneurship. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, Summer. I love you so much, Soror, and thank you for having me here. I have always admired you. You're amazing. And I'm just so happy to be here with your viewers today. So my name is Joanne Massey, and I like to say that I was born, raised, and educated right here in Memphis. I am a middle college, high school graduate, go Bulldogs, and I am also a LeMoyne Owen Go Magicians graduate. So very excited. I'm a mother of 3. All my children are of adult age now, but not out of our pockets yet. My husband and I, QB Senior, have been married for 22 years, and we met way back when. I've been together for 28, but I am so blessed to have a really huge family, a lot of cousins that I'm sure will be watching us, and a really huge family, but most importantly, just a lot of blessings that I've been able to serve this community and continuing with my firm, LeMoyne Massey Associates, and doing work both locally and nationally.
That is awesome. Well, you are super impressive. And that big title too of mama, mama to 3, and kudos on getting them grown. And you will get them out your pocket eventually. But they're grown is something to celebrate for sure. For sure. So, okay, Joanne, you are a woman who epitomizes So What Success. And I can't wait to jump into your story. So in this program, I have what I call the So What Success system. And that's when a person can learn how to overcome obstacles, eliminate excuses, and calculate choices. They can have So What Success. And that is success in spite of any obstacles they face. So let's get into your story. first tell us a little bit about the obstacles that you've had to overcome to achieve the success that you've had in your life.
Well, you know, Summer, as I reflect on those challenges and obstacles that I've had, I can't help but, you know, note the blessings and each and every turn and each and every step. And those blessings have really come through other people. So as I sought to, you know, live my life, I consider it a blessing to be a blessing. I don't look for the blessing to come back up to me, but it continues to as I, you know, try to be a blessing to others. So I was, as I said, born, raised, and educated right here in Memphis. I was born to a teenage mother who had not graduated high school. My father, her boyfriend, he didn't graduate high school either. He was a little bit older than her, and they had me. My mother was really young. She was one of 8 children. I think the 3rd child she was, and so my grandmother didn't have a lot of resources. She was a single mother herself. And in my neighborhood, right there in New Chicago in North Memphis, there was a couple, Geraldine and Wendell Collins, who were in their 30s, who did not have any children. And I was so blessed that they took me in. So at 6 months old, I was unofficially adopted by my godparents who raised me well until I was in my teen years. My biological mother was in my life. So I had 2 mamas. I had a daddy. I had multiple cousins and grandmas, a blended family who supported me. But I was living with my godparents, and I had those 2 mothers, and I was so blessed. As I went on in my life, being the child of, you know, a teen mother who had very low education, my godparents, you know, they did pretty well for themselves. My godfather was a forklift driver, but like it happens, companies started closing during the late 80s and early 90s. And so my godfather lost his job. And when he lost his job and his company closed, they could really no longer take care of me. By that time, my biological mother had gotten married, had, you know, a couple of other children. And so I was sent to live back with her. That was a shocker for me. That change in environment was a big shocker. But what I did not do is give up on myself. And so I continued to pursue my education, which was really important and something my godparents instilled in me. And they told me education is the way out. And they would say, you're a smart girl. You're going to get out of here. Just stay focused on your books. And that's just how they really trained me. So that obstacle of being a child of teenage parents, of being born in poverty in one of the most impoverished areas in our community, North Memphis, and particularly New Chicago, and then having that instability in my home life, absent, you know, biological father, and just moving forward. I mean, those obstacles in and of itself were really, really challenging. And I'll tell you something. Yeah. And I'll tell you, like I said, education was a real big focus for me. But that even had its challenges because you don't know what you don't know. And I think that's so important for young people, especially when we are giving back and trying to help them. We just assume that, oh, they know how to get to college. They know how to apply. They know what to do. They don't. And so I was very fortunate in around 8th grade to meet a guy named Tony Spratling and be enrolled in a program called Upward Bound. And if not for Upward Bound, I would not have went to college. I didn't know I could go to college, even though I was a smart kid and, you know, I had these teachers around me. No one said, you know, little girl from North Memphis, you can go to college. Like they didn't say that. They wanted me to just graduate high school. That was the accomplishment. That was the goal. But there was so much more and so many bigger things that I could do. And so with Upward Bound came the exposure to historically Black colleges, to being an attorney. Like the goal line was pushed even higher and further for me. And the sky opened up in a really good way. And so when you think about growing up, in poverty, lack of exposure, lack of assets, lack of opportunities, all those were my obstacles. But fortunately, as I said early on, I, was able to focus on my blessings. My blessings were, even though my parents weren't educated, even though my community in and of itself was impoverished, but they were not impoverished of hope. They were just impoverished of what material things, but the hope was still there. And children like myself, I was their hope. I was the one that was going to help move our community forward. And so they supported me, they helped me, they protected me. I never felt unsafe in my community growing up as a child. I would walk the streets of New Chicago and there was my uncles and my cousins and people who knew them, and I can remember Summer people saying, "Oh, that's Big Lou's niece, don't mess with her," And it was a good thing. It was a good thing. And so I was protected, and it really helped me to be able to focus on my future. So like I mentioned with Upward Bound, I went on, and as I mentioned, I met my husband 20 plus years ago. So I met my husband, and I love to tell this story, my senior year of high school, met my husband. And I was focused. I was on my way to Howard University in DC. This is what I was going to do. And then I met this really cute guy. And he had pretty eyes and pretty legs. And I was in love. And I will tell you, my principal at the time in middle college, Joyce Mitchell, who's also a soror, she was adamant that I did not need to be in a relationship. She was focused on making sure that I kept moving forward. And of course, like any other teenage girl, I was focused on what I wanted to do. But by God's grace, my husband turned out to be a really good guy, who also supported me in my education and goals. And although I decided to stay in Memphis, and where we first met back in 1998, I was at the University of Memphis. I enrolled there on scholarship with what is now Emerging Leaders, I believe. And at the time, it was, I think it's leadership. It was a leadership scholarship.
It was Emerging Leaders. It was probably because I went on Emerging Leaders scholarship, I guess the year after you probably.
Got it. So yeah, so enrolled there. But again, first semester, now I'm a college student. Now I graduated on from Upward Bound, and they got me into school. But guess what? I didn't have the home life to support me in being a college freshman. No one in my family, I was the first person to attend college in my entire family. And no one knew what those challenges were like. And not only that, I was in a relationship that, although he supported me, he didn't know either. He wasn't in college. And so there I was trying to navigate now a completely new platform without the resources that a lot of young people need. And so I'm being very transparent here. Sometimes when I say this, people don't believe me. I flunked out my first year. My GPA was less than a 2.0. I went on probation. I met one of the most wonderful people who, rest her soul, is no longer with us, Dr. Benita Lyons at the University of Memphis, who was over the academic probation office. And I flunked. I was put on probation. I lost my scholarship, and I didn't know what I was going to do. But what's important here, and I want to make sure we get to all the questions, because these obstacles, people have to understand. When I flunked out, I could have made a choice to quit, but it was not what my family could give me financially or materialistically that helped me to continue. It was that hope. It didn't matter that I failed. What mattered, and I remember my godfather telling me, like I said, he had an 8th grade education and he was a forklift driver. He said, it does not matter how many times you fall. but how many times do you get up? And I was not going to let my daddy down. I'm about to cry. I was not going to let my daddy down. I was not.
You know what? So let me move to the next question, because you're already kind of talking about it. Excuses. The next part of the SOA success system is excuses. We all will have challenges. We all will have obstacles. And I appreciate you sharing what you just shared, including flunking out that first semester. Is something I definitely didn't know about. Well, I actually didn't know any of those things you just shared. But that's common, right? That actually is common for a freshman without the background and the support system. And even some with the support system in the background to not make it in that first semester, that first year, and use that excuse and not come back. But obviously you did. So talk about how you got past that excuse and any other excuses that you maybe did make or had to eliminate to get to where you are right now.
Yeah. Well, I can't get off talking about my parents and my community. You know, both my godparents who raised me and my biological mother, who's important to me as well. Because the thing is that in addition to that hope they instilled in me and that drive, you know, and making me feel important, right? I was important to them and important to my community. Again, it didn't matter about the money and what they could give me. It was how they supported me. What they also showed me, though, was work ethic. My father, I can remember being a little girl, and he worked at Firestone, which was basically around the hill, around the corner there on Breelove, I believe it was, right there in New Chicago. And for whatever reason, you know, we only had one car. And I can't remember. I just remember it was a big old steel, you know, one of those cars that if you bump it now, it won't dent, but like, unlike ours. But my godmother didn't work. You know, she took care of us. She was a homemaker. And my godfather had to be at work at 6 o'clock in the morning, and to keep the car so that she could take me to school and, you know, and do things, she had to drop him off at work. Well, my godparents weren't leaving me at home by myself, so they would put me in the back of the car with a blanket. You know, these were the non-seatbelt days. You remember we used to be on the back of pickup trucks. I know we lived. I don't know how, but we did. But nevertheless, they put me in the back of the car with a blanket, you know, to continue, so I could continue to sleep while we drove my daddy to work. And then we picked him up in the evenings when he got off. But what I learned from them, Summer, is it did not matter what obstacles or, you know, what, you know, challenges were put in your way. You found a way. You found a way to get around it. I can remember my godparents, because they were really protective of me. I didn't eat school lunches when I was a little girl. And, you know, it was free lunch, but I didn't eat school lunches. My godparents gave me money to buy, you know, cookies or to buy what I wanted. And they would pack me a little lunch to have a snack with it. And I can remember them counting out quarters to give me. So when I saw that, I'm telling you right now, and this is today, it does not matter what happens in my life. I will not allow an obstacle to make me quit. There are no excuses. You and I are both Greek. We know what excuses are. And I really, I mean, when I learned that, I grabbed on to that. But I already had that within me because, again, I could have given up. My godparents could have given up. My mother, Gloria, I love her. We have a really, really great relationship. But at 17 years old, she could have made a choice. And instead of making that other choice that she could have made and not bringing me in this world, or of giving me, you know, not giving me that chance with my godparents to have a life that I now have and credit them all for, she could have just made an excuse and said, well, I'm gonna quit school because I have this child. She never gave up. So it's those excuses. And what I want your listeners to know more than anything is, it doesn't matter what happened to you. what happens to you. It does not. I'm talking about, it could be the most devastating thing, other than and short of you stopping breathing, you can keep going. And
Yes.
and it is only up to you. Nobody can stop you but you. That's it. Nobody can stop you but you. And even when you go into the deepest valley, and the Bible talks about that, even when you go into the deepest valley, God still is with you. He is. And whatever belief and whatever faith and level of faith you have, it does not matter. As long as you believe that you can, you will. That's a guarantee. You will if you believe that you can.
I love it. I love it. So you brought back so many memories and so many thoughts, because I grew up poor too. In the household with my mom and with my stepdad. I'm the oldest of 5. But I also remember counting out the change. I even had the little change purse where my little change was in there. So I remember, and I saw the sacrifice, and I feel everything that you just said, and it's just a blessing though. That, like you said too, that you had people in your life to help you to believe in yourself, and to help you to know that you were important, and that you were special, and that you could overcome, and you could achieve. And so you began to believe it yourself. And I too believe that it doesn't matter what happened to you. It doesn't matter, because we all will have things to happen to us, and some of us will have really, really horrible things to happen to us. And we'll even have things that we create that, that make life really tough. But you can still be successful, and it's based on the third part. Is so what success is. I mean, it's choices. How have you made choices throughout your life? So calculating choices is the third part, and you can be successful based on the choices that you make. Talk about some of your choices.
Yeah. Summer, I've made some really good choices, like my husband. I think I made a good choice in that relationship.
Now that's an important one. That's really, really important one.
It's a really important one. And I tell young people, I have twin daughters that are 18 years old, and our son who's 24. We talk to them about their relationship choices. Your choice of significant other relationship, that person that's going to walk with you in life, is important. Now, my husband and I, we'd be the first ones to say we are definitely opposites. As outgoing as I try to be, he is laid back. As calm as he is, I'm obviously not. We are opposites to the T, but our complement for each other, of each other, and our central priority being family is what has made us. And we figured that out now, but we didn't have that early on, because I didn't know what he was doing and he didn't know what I was doing, but there we were. But I made good choices, and I made some bad choices too. Some, again, though, where those choices have been made, I consider it to be a part of faith. So, there's Proverbs 3:5-6. It says, trust in the Lord with all thy heart, and lean not to thy own understanding, but in all ways acknowledge him. Just because I made a bad choice doesn't make me a bad person. Not only that, it does not mean that it is definitive. And I have a passion for young people, particularly women, but also those that have been underserved in our community, and do not have the privileges that some people are able to have now. And so we have young people who are incarcerated, and sometimes they're written off. That's it. And when they get out, they continue to suffer from what is just really an image of them having made a bad choice, being in the wrong place at the wrong time, and all of that. But if God can forgive us, we should be able to forgive each other. So it doesn't matter what choices you make and how bad they might have been, you can overcome it. Now, with that being said, and especially having children of my own, I encourage young people to make good choices.
Right.
Let's not go. Right. Because you can make some choices now that I would say will make your hills steeper, your climb rougher, and really put you so far back that it's hard to overcome. But again, it's about making the best choices for you. It's about utilizing the resources like So What in our community, reading your books. I mean, let me just tell you, you know, my daughters have all been gifted your books themselves, and we are loyal followers of So What in your story. And I will tell you, you know, I didn't have a lot from example other than my mother, you know, some family members to give my own daughters in their journey to adulthood and where they are now. But Summer, you have served as an inspiration to my daughters at a very young age. Bianca, as a matter of fact, step ahead. She was on the youth council for that group. And of course, that group is also, you know, a So What fan club, should I say, and very aware of your story. So you have inspired my little girls from the time they were about 13 or 14 when we shared, I shared their materials with you. And here they are now. They're 18, in college, employed, and they have not made some of those choices that could have been made, that could have challenged their lives. And so again, when you talk about choices, and I'm just, you know, trying to wrap up here, but when you talk about choices, Summer, you go back to the principles that you have discussed here and what So What is based on: obstacles, excuses. Those choices that you make, you want to make good choices, but when you make choices that are not so good, it is not obstacles that you can overcome and not excuses that you could put to the side and keep going. And so for me, I'm so blessed to have had a career in public service. I worked in the private and public, and really, really happy that I've been able to serve my community both professionally and personally, and continue to serve them. I'm not, that's not changing with the work that I'm doing with my firm. Again, it's just spreading both locally and nationally now, and continuing that. And so for young women especially, I think that it is so important for them to understand. And I was telling a young woman this morning, I had a coffee with her. I told her, I said, you're in control. A lot of times women, and, you know, particularly again, women who, young girls who have grown up in poverty, they're told that whole cliche, you're not going to be anything. You can't accomplish anything. You're just, right? That word just is something that they should take out of their vocabulary. I'm just, or I was just. Take it out, forget about it, because it's not you're just, it's you are. You are what you believe, what you say you are, your choice. It is your control. You are in control. And you want to just access the resources like So What and others in the community, and you really just want to try to make the best choice. But again, know that if you take a bad turn, it's not the end. Not to give up. Just keep going. Just as long as God wakes you up in the morning, just keep going.
Love it. You said, as long as you can breathe, you had another day, another chance to make another choice. I love it. I love it. And I'm so grateful what you said about your daughters, and that they embraced my message and my materials, and that they are, and I'm watching, of course, I'm watching on Facebook as they are becoming young women and doing amazing things. And they have a beautiful example in you as a mother, and the things that you have done and overcome and dealt with, and showing them anything, not just them, but everybody who knows you can see that anything is possible. And I love the fact that you shared your background, your backstory, which is even more empowering to know this is what you came from. And even, like I said, just kind of going back to the fact that you flunked out your first semester. I can personally think of so many people who don't go back to school after failing that first semester, that first year, and don't go back in the direction that their life goes into because they didn't go back. And how amazing it was that you did. Mm-hmm.
And Summer, let me add, because I think this is important. When I talk about that flunking out story, I want to make sure, and this is, you know, me, not to my own horn, but this is what people need to know. I flunked out. I did. I got put on probation, and then I still went back to the university, but I didn't make that GPA. I'm talking about I just missed it by 2 points, and there was no, the policy was the policy. So I decided that, what am I had to decide what I'm going to do. So Dr. Lyons and I came up with a plan, and I transferred to LeMoyne and started their Excel program, which was a night school program for young adults, for adults to finish. So I transferred to LeMoyne. I finished my business degree there with a major in finance and business administration. I then went on and obtained my master's degree from Benedictine University with a concentration in financial management. And then from there, I went on and I just recently, in the last couple of years, completed a certification in economic development at Harvard University. So I went from being flunked out on probation to Harvard. I said, Mama, I made it. And then she laughed at me, but I did. I told her, Mama, I made it to Harvard. But what the reason why I describe and share my educational attainment, and that's just some of, I have different attainments of certifications and through my work professionally. And I'm actually an adjunct at Christian Brothers University in their master's business administration program, creating a certification program for them, in fact. But being flunked out on probation with what most people would have dismissed me and just put me in the stats and said, that's another dropout to Harvard. I share that because I need people to know that same hope, that same obstacles that they may be facing. Just don't give up. That's it. Just don't give up.
I think that's beautiful. It's beautiful when you can look back on your life. And again, about the system we just described, if you can overcome obstacles, eliminate excuses, and make some good calculated choices, you will have that story too. You can have that story of what looked like was the end for you. You can look back and laugh and smile just like you just described, and like I do in my own life. It's like, what? I never even would have guessed it back then. But if you just keep moving forward and make those right decisions and overcome those obstacles, eliminate excuses, make those choices, you can have so what success. So Joanne, you are definitely a so what success story. And I'm loving learning more about you and your story. But how do you personally define success?
Well, this isn't new to me. It's one that I could have, inked on my arm, because every day that I wake up, my definition of success in my mind is really truly just one phrase, and I've already said it: never give up. If you never ever give up, my father, who's a forklift driver, 8th grade education, when he said, it does not matter how many times you fall, but how many times you give up, it put in me that drive to just never give up. Never give up for myself. I never give up for my children, for my amazing husband, who is my number one fan and my rock, for my friends, my family, my community. I will never, ever give up. And that's my definition of success.
I love it. That makes me think about, so Yolanda Adams has a song, No, Never Give Up. And I had a speaking engagement in Austin, Texas at a church. This was years ago. And my son was there with me. And as I started talking about the song, and I saw my son in the audience. I was like, shut up. I'm singing for the Lord. So yeah, not one of my strengths. Singing is not one of my strengths. But that's her song. And that is one of my messages too. And that is something that I always hold near and dear to my heart and encourage other people to do, because when you can see, and I know you are like this, like I am, when you can see past the challenges, not even your own, but other people's too, you can see past the challenges, and if they take these steps, like we talked about in the system, they can have success too. One last question for you. what advice would you give to someone who wants to be successful, but they are experiencing obstacles and challenges in their own life? Some general advice.
Well, two things. There's a poem by my favorite poet, and not just because he was a good-looking man, but Langston Hughes. If I could ever meet somebody, he and Maxwell, who I met, is on my list. But Langston Hughes has a poem called Dream Deferred, and it goes really quickly. It's kind of a haiku. Fast to your dreams and never. So Langston Hughes' poem, it's called The Dream Deferred, and it says really quickly, it's like a haiku. It goes, hold fast to your dreams and never let your dreams die, or life will be like a broken winged bird that will never fly. Hold fast to your dreams and never let your dreams go, or life will be like a barren field frozen with snow. It doesn't matter what you dream. You can dream of being a tennis player, a singer, Summer, a singer. You can be president of the United States. Whatever you choose to be, hold fast to your dreams. Work towards your dreams and never, ever, ever give up. And that's the advice I have for anyone.
And that was beautiful. We'll end on that note. That was beautiful, and that's just the truth. That is just the truth. And as I'm looking at you and I'm looking at your dreams and your path and your journey, and I'm thinking about my own, we just know that there's always, like you said, in your neighborhood, hope. Even when it looks like there's no hope and it looks like there's no way, as long as you have hope and the people around you have hope, you can be any and everything that you want to be. Even a director in a major city, an entrepreneur running your own business. So thank you so much, Joanne. I'm so glad we made this time to talk. I love you. I support you. You support others so beautifully. And you are not just a friend in the sword, but you're also a role model to me. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Summer. Thank you for having me here. Thank you to your listeners. And thank you to the community who continues to support me. I love you all.